Hello and welcome back to another episode of Hollywood Wargaming. Today I'm giving you guys a bit of a two-part video. I have been gone for a while, I know. First off, I want to talk about the new battle forces leaked for Star Wars Legion. And after that, I am going to give a general channel update as to why I've been gone so long, which is probably going to be a little bit more personal than my channel usually is, and be relevant to both my Bolt Action and Legion followers alike. Don't worry, it's not going to be anything too sappy. I just feel like I owe it to you guys to let you know what's going on. And if you're not interested in the Legion Battle Force box sets and just want to hear a channel update, skip ahead in the video until you see the time card where it says channel update. Just be advised, it's going to be a little bit more rambling and less hobby-oriented information, so stay tuned for that if you're interested. But let's go ahead and get started with those new Star Wars Legion Battle Force box sets. These were announced quite some time ago, and the speculation pretty much seemed to be spot on. They are sort of individual faction starter kits, which seem to have a general theme in mind, and also seem to come with new command cards. And while we don't have the list building mechanics and these special command cards in front of us just yet, it is pretty cool that we are now seeing individual faction box sets, which are also pretty decent bundle buys. As we all know, up until this point, Star Wars Legion only had the core box sets that came with two factions in them. And while they were absolutely fantastic deals for players who just were looking to get into the game on their own and didn't have anyone to split the box set with, and perhaps didn't want to get on eBay to sell the other half, it's great that we're now seeing an alternative way to jump into the game. So let's go ahead and take a look at the contents of these box sets, starting off with the original trilogy factions, which will both be Hoth-themed armies. And I guess we'll go ahead and start with Empire here, who are going to have the Blizzard Force, which contains the original box set Darth Vader as our main hero, followed up by 3 squads of snowtroopers, 2 units of speeder bikes, which totals 4 speeder bike models, and of course one of the biggest armor pieces in the game, which is the AT-ST. Now, all of these Battle Force box sets for the pre-existing factions are going to be coming in at $150, which I do find to be pretty affordable considering that these are going to get you pretty much a full list of 800 points in Star Wars Legion, something that a core set couldn't do for you. But the quote-unquote value does vary from box set to box set, and with Blizzard Force, buying each of these model sets individually, we do have a $230 value, meaning you technically are getting $80 off of MSRP here. However, I do think Blizzard Force is the least enticing of these 4 box sets, and it probably is the best example of what little gripes I do have with these new Battle Force box sets. Don't get me wrong, these are great additions to the Star Wars Legion line. However, with this box set in particular, I think we are seeing a bit of the bundle buy sales tactic, where they're clumping a lot of models that aren't really selling on their own into a big box set, which entices buyers into a bulk buy of product that otherwise wouldn't be moving. The demand for snowtroopers and speeder bikes in particular have been somewhat low, and I think that's partially due to their rules in the game, but also how they fit into other general armies, as they are kind of heavily themed towards certain planets in the Star Wars franchise. And the AT-ST itself also had a long period where it wasn't that useful, while simultaneously being a rather expensive model that players usually only buy one of. However, one thing that I do like about this box set is that we are getting 3 units of snowtroopers that are models that are not available in the core set, and I really do like the idea of these box sets being expansions that you can either jump into the game with or buy as an addition after you buy the core set. But the problem here is that you are getting another Commander Vader, which you would already have gotten in the core set, and then 2 squads of those speeder bikes, which, yes, you could run 3 squads of those speeder bikes, but it's kind of overkill. I mean, the mission selector kind of nerfed bombing run, right? But no, in all seriousness, it's just kind of a lot of repetition for a support unit. Which brings me to my final gripe with this box set, which is just kind of thematic flavor. Because I think I really would have liked this box set if instead of those 2 squads of speeder bikes, it came with the E-Web and Veers. I mean, those are 2 units that pretty much made their debut on Hoth, and they're missing from this box set, which I find to be a bit disappointing and kind of reinforces my theory that this is a box set where they're trying to unload models that aren't selling that well. Though honestly, I don't think the E-Web itself is selling like hotcakes either, so go figure. So those are really my 3 main issues with these Battle Force box sets. 1, it kind of feels like they're lumping together models that aren't selling that well to get a bulk sale on them. 2, there is sometimes a bit of repetition between these Battle Forces and the core set. And 3, that they are sometimes a little bit thematically off, which is kind of related to problem number 1. Now, all 3 of these problems are most prevalent in this Empire box set. The next 3 box sets we're going to look at pretty much only have 1 of these 3 issues prevalent, and a lot more subtly so. So while I do have that short list of complaints, it pretty much does only apply to this Imperial box set. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm pretty happy with how these battle forces came out, and I think they're a great addition to the game. But at this point, I'm sure you guys know me, my discrepancies will not go unheard. But that is why I started off with Blizzard Force, as it is pretty much good news from here on out. And that will move us along to our Mirror Original Trilogy Battle Force, which is the Echo-based Defenders. And this is probably my second favorite box set here, as it is A, very thematic, B, runs perfectly alongside the core set for Rebels, and C, is the best bang for your buck of any of these box sets. So first off, we get Leia and Chewbacca. That is a commander and an operative, and the only time you see 2 hero units in any of these box sets, something that I wish they didn't shy away from. Followed up by a whopping 4 units of Rebel veterans, 2 squads of Tauntaun Riders, which are still a very good support unit, especially for people who are new to the game, along with an FD laser cannon, and also the elusive R2-D2 and C-3PO, a unit that was previously only available in a $40 Battlefield Scenario set. Now, that's 9 units with a commander, 2 operatives, 4 core units, and 3 support options, all of which are not available in any other bundle deal anywhere else. Now, sure, you don't have a snowspeeder in the Hoth set, and maybe if you dropped 1 Tauntaun Rider and a Rebel Veteran for a snowspeeder, this would be the perfect box set. But still, everything present is very thematic with the Battle of Hoth, and I think us finally having R2 and C-3PO somewhere other than that crashed escape pod set is really, really awesome. Now, this is $310 worth of MSRP models, and yes, you can find a lot of these older Rebel models on sale for cheaper than MSRP elsewhere, but you are getting about $160 off of MSRP here, which is pretty much like getting all of these models for half off, and I'm pretty sure that beats buying them off Miniature Market individually. But wait, you say, I crunched the numbers and the Separatist faction bundle set is a better deal than this by $5, isn't it? Well, I'll get to that right now. The Separatist Invasion Force is another pretty sizable box set, containing General Grievous, 4 squads of B-1 battle droids, 2 squads of droidicas, and then also the Magna Guards and the AAT tank. And yes, this box set is $315 value, which would be $165 off MSRP value if you bought these models individually in their own box sets. However, this Separatist Invasion Force does have the most amount of overlapping units with the core box sets, which would give you General Grievous, 2 squads of B1s, and a Droidica squad at $50 if you split the box with someone else. So with 2 core sets at $100 giving you all those units, you would essentially be getting in this Battle Force box the Magna Guards and the AAT for $50, which, don't get me wrong, is a great deal. But in my opinion, saying that this box set is $165 off is a bit of an artificial value, as almost nobody buys B1s or Droidicas on their own. And if they do, it is usually at a steep discount that can be found on Amazon or Miniature Market. And I personally, on multiple occasions, have sold Droidicas and B1s and General Grievouses on eBay for $15. I actually have an old video on this, how to break down Star Wars Legion core sets, if you want to go back and check that out. Personally, I'm not too crazy about this box set. If we got something like a super tactical droid, or even a T-Series as a commander, and then Snap Riders instead of Droidicas, I would personally like it a lot more. But it just overlaps so much with the core set, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for this faction, as I do recommend most Separatist players to have at least 4 squads of B1 battle droids, and having a second General Grievous is cool, as he does have 2 dramatically different poses based on his equipment. But I think everyone can agree that 3 squads of Droidicas is overkill, especially considering that you get double models in those sets, and 2 units of Droidicas will give you 8 actual Droidica models, which is more than enough to field 3 Droidica units. So overall, it's not a bad box set by any stretch of the imagination, and if you really don't want to deal with breaking down those box sets, it is a good way to get a lot of B1s all at once. And I completely understand that a lot of players probably want to take that route, especially if they're newer to the wargaming hobby. So overall, I'm a little lukewarm on this starter set, mostly because I think that $165 off is probably a little bit inflated, as Separatists are really one of the easiest factions to get a baseline army on a budget through that core set. But hey, more options never hurt the consumers. But lastly, we have here what is probably my favorite box set, and that is going to be the 501st Legion for the Republic faction. Now here you are going to be getting Anakin Skywalker along with 2 Phase 2 Clone Trooper squads, 3 squads of ARC Troopers, and also an ATRT, which is a pretty firm $255 value here, meaning with $105 off you're getting around a 45% discount. And that is slightly less than the other box sets listed here. However, every single one of these models is not only not available in the Clone Wars core set, but they're also all hard plastic, which means all of these models are newer, they look better, and they're far less likely to show up on sale. At least for the time being, bar maybe the ATRT. Now, I do have one slight issue with this box set. I wish that it came with 3 squads of Phase 2s and 2 ARC Troopers instead of vice versa. And there's a couple reasons for that. First of all, most lists in Star Wars Legion do require you to have 3 core trooper options, meaning this is not a complete starter set really. Though I'm sure the special 501st Battle Force rules may bend that a little bit. But still, it would be nice to have the option to buy this box set and be able to play normal lists without having to play that Battle Force. And 3 Phase 2 squads would just be the perfect way to start a Phase 2 Clone Trooper army. And lastly, while ARC Troopers are awesome models, and it is really cool that you get 3 Special Forces options here, they are a handful to paint. I think it took me something like 8 months to finish off my 2 ARC Trooper squads. They just have so much extra detail on them, and if you do go with that 501st color markings, it adds even more time to the paint job. So dropping 3 squads of ARC Troopers in a player's lap is just kind of a large workload. But overall, I think this is a really good box set, as you can buy the Clone Wars core set and then also this box set and have a very robust clone force. And people now have 2 pretty cool ways of getting into the Republic faction, either going with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Phase 1s or Anakin Skywalker in Phase 2s. And as someone who had to restart their Republic faction at a certain point, I definitely wish I had this option on the table back then, especially considering that these hard plastic clone troopers are when the sculpting started to get really, really good for Legion models. But that is going to wrap up our 4 new Battle Force box sets. Overall, I really do like them. It's a really cool thing to add to the product line for Star Wars Legion. But the Republic and Rebel box sets in particular stand out to me, as when combined with their half of the core sets, will allow you to get an extremely robust force for around $200. Meanwhile, the Separatist and Empire box sets are a cool way to get into the game alternative to the core set if you're a new player. I just wish they didn't overlap with the contents of the core box sets so much and had a little bit more thematic coherency. But next up, we are going to have one new box set coming out here, and it's not quite a Battle Force set, but rather a starter set, and that is, of course, for the new Shadow Collective faction. Now, this box set will contain the new Shadow Collective Maul, along with 1 box set of Pike Syndicates, Black Suns, and also Mandalorian Death Watch, which means every single model in this new box set is a new model, and it is going to retail at a very reasonable price of just $70. Which is roughly a $55 discount if you were to count Darth Maul as a $20 model individually, which I think is fair, which I gotta say overall is just a really fantastic deal. Now, when these guys were first announced, I really was speculative about how well those Pikes and Black Suns were going to sell, but this box set is just a slam dunk, and I can't believe it's retailing at just $70. I really would have expected something like $90. It's a tremendous discount for brand new models all across the board. Just a fantastic way to introduce this new kind of sub-faction thing into the game, and at that price point, I think a lot more players are going to have no issue just picking up Shadow Collective as a little side army. Now, I'm still not happy that they've really slammed on the brakes for Clone War releases, but this box set here alone has really shifted my opinion on the Shadow Collective release. Atomic Mass Games or Asmodee or whoever's in charge of making the decision for these box sets is really going out of their way to show that Legion is still one of the more affordable war games to get into. And while this box set does kind of ride that line of, hey, maybe those Pikes and Black Suns won't sell that well, so we're going to make you buy them with Maul if you want Maul, it still is at such a good price point that it doesn't really bother me. And it is a nice little smorgasbord of variety here. It's not like they're saying, hey, if you want Maul, you got to buy him in a box set with 3 Black Sun squads. And again, they're all brand new models, which helps a lot. So overall, I think this is a fantastic starter set that's really springboarding the Shadow Collective. And I think it's very generous of AMG, or again, Asmodee, whoever's doing it, to release an entire new wave of models this way. But on top of this Shadow Collective box set, we do have some additional Scum and Villainy units that were announced, and a couple of very exciting ones at that. Now, first of all here we have Gar Saxon, who I believe is the leader of the Mandalorian Death Watch, who will slot in perfectly with Darth Maul and that Shadow Collective starter set. And at this point, he is pretty much fully revealed and present on Tabletop Admiral. He seems to be a pretty offensive-oriented commander with some light support abilities that most notably synergize with Death Watch. He is highly maneuverable with a movement speed of 3 and jump 2, and has that red defensive die with Surge, which is essentially a 3+ armor save. However, he only has Impervious, not Immunity to Pierce, and only 5 health and Courage 2. but I think he will be a pretty threatening character to have on the battlefield, especially alongside Maul. And it's good to see that this new Shadow Collective Maul is going to have some extra backup here, and he's not going to be target priority number 1 in every list you build. So overall, pretty cool, though I'm not exactly crazy about the model itself. I think the standard Death Watch Mandalorians have some cooler poses in that kit, but hey, you can always kit bash him onto one of those models. Next up, we have the Swoop Bike Riders, who were teased during the initial announcement of the Shadow Collective faction. And I'm just not really crazy about speeder bikes in this game, probably because they're rules more so than anything else. But also, I gotta say, I don't really find these models too interesting. They look a little static for something as wild as swoop bikes, and I think they would look a bit cooler if they were perhaps lower to the ground, like most of the other bikes in this game, but that's just me nitpicking the models. But one thing that would change my opinion on this kit is if it came with a variety of different riders to choose from, perhaps different alien species and different weapon types. Combine that with all the different ways people can paint these, and I think you are going to have a really awesome creative template for units, where every player's swoop bike riders are going to be their own unique units. But if they're all the same alien on the same bike with the same pose, I think that will diminish the sort of roguish nature of the swoop riders. So fingers crossed for some variety here. But as far as rules go, we don't really know what they're going to entail. Obviously, they're going to be fast support units, and I'll go out on a leg and say that they're probably going to have either overrun or ram, considering that they do have melee weapons. And based on the text on the back of the box saying whether they're criminals or freedom fighters, it seems like these swoop riders are going to be able to side with any faction in the game. Also, on the box art on the side, we do see Shaq T riding a swoop bike, which does imply some extra alien options there. But next up here, we are going to have a big one for me personally, and that is going to be the IG series assassin droids. Now, I did a video a while back on what units I want to see in Star Wars Legion, and this is a big one on my checklist there. It looks like we are getting IG-88 and IG-11 from the Mandalorian show. I love these small character expansion boxes that include multiple unit cards. It just gives you so much bang for your buck in terms of list building capabilities. And with the new mercenary rules, I think it's going to become even more flexible. So I'm really excited to see the unit reveals for this box set. And another huge bonus here is that you're going to be able to paint these guys in like 20 minutes tops, as spray painting them silver and hitting them with 2 washes will do 90% of the paint job here. My only complaint here is that I do hope they have an extra right arm in the box set, as it seems like both models are using the exact same DLT arm pose. Actually, it seems like their left arm with the E11 might even be the same arm also, so throw in some extra arm poses there and I'm completely sold on this new model. But last up here, we do have the Mandalorian himself, Din Djarin, who also comes with Baba Yaga. And this was, of course, a highly anticipated model, which is coming a bit sooner than I thought it would. And while I am very excited to see the rules for this unit, and I do find it very interesting that they decided to include Grogu here, I do have a lot of nitpicks about the models. First of all, Din Djarin's pose is fine, but much like the other models we've talked about so far, I really hope there's some other arm options there. I think it would be a missed opportunity if he doesn't have a pose with the Darksaber and his rifle. But I will say I do like the pose he does have. It is a very subtle gunslinger style pose. Once again, I just hope we have options. And I am noticing a trend here where if there is alternative options, we're not seeing it on the box art as much as we used to. If you go take a look at the Anakin Skywalker box, it shows the multiple poses on the back there unpainted. So I have to assume that on these new boxes, there either is no additional poses or they're just no longer showing them on the back of the box. Both of which are a bit unfortunate, but I would much rather prefer that we do have the options and they're not pictured. So with Din Djarin, I'm okay with the pose. I just really hope we get some more options there. However, with Grogu, we do get 2 different models for him, or 2 different poses. One of which is him holding up his hand like he's doing some force powers, and then the other is him eating a frog. And these options kind of irk me a bit. We have 2 different sculpts of the same character, but they're both remarkably similar. And I think most people were hoping for 2 versions of Grogu, one of him on foot and then one of him in his little hovering egg, which honestly could have been incorporated into how the unit functions in-game with an upgrade card, or at least give us just a little bit of difference in the model. I am a big fan of duplicate sculpts that kind of represent different in-game mechanics, like the droidicas in wheel mode, and perhaps Grogu eating a frog will represent his flaw card or something like that, though I highly doubt it. But overall, with the models themselves, I feel like there is a good amount of missed opportunity with the Mandalorian here. I was really anticipating 2 to 3 poses for Din Djarin, and then Baby Yoda on foot and his egg. And while that would mean more plastic in the box, thus making it more expensive, you could definitely charge $25 for the Mandalorian and Grogu. People would absolutely buy it. I mean, if Games Workshop can get away with selling a skink Star Priest for $32, well, you get the gist. So overall, these additional releases are pretty cool. I'm personally most excited for the IG series droids, although I know most people are probably more looking forward to the Mandalorian. Gar Saxon's a great release alongside with the Shadow Collective to make sure Maul's not in there on his own. And while I'm not super excited for the swoop bikes, they are going to be a nice support unit for that Shadow Collective faction, and also a very flexible buy for most players, or at least it seems. And overall, it's just really nice to see a steady trickle of Star Wars Legion content again. So that is going to wrap up all of our new Star Wars Legion announcements here. And as promised, I am going to give you a little bit of an update on the channel and why I've seemingly been so MIA. And first of all, I just want to say thank you guys for staying subscribed. It's really nice to come back on the channel every now and then and see people asking, hey, where you been? Are you alright? Things like that. It's also nice to see people still engaging in the videos. I still get comments of, oh no, this is what I think about this rule or this unit, and here's my opinion on this. I definitely didn't intend for this channel to be a sort of news or reaction channel, but rather a resource center for the hobby where people who want to know, what do I buy? How do I do this? What do I do with list building? Can come to and get a little bit of insight and perhaps answer some of their questions. And the fact that people are still coming here, watching and engaging with videos that are over a year old now is something that really makes me feel accomplished in that feat. Obviously, in a game like Star Wars Legion, where the meta is shifting with every new release and models are pretty frequently being rolled out, my older videos are going to kind of expire and go out of relevancy. But Bolt Action is a much more sediment game, fortunately. And at least it's not like a Warhammer channel where older videos pretty much just expire and become completely irrelevant when a new edition rolls around. So even if I'm not actively posting on this channel, I still do want to have content up here, which can serve as a sort of library for people who have questions or are interested in certain units or getting into the game and things like that. Now, I was doing a lot of news cycle posting during the Kashyyyk Wave release, and that is for two main reasons, both of which kind of play into why I haven't been posting videos lately. The first of which is very relevant to Star Wars Legion. As we all know, there was a changing of the guard with the game going from FFG to Atomic Mass games. And I have to say, for the style of content that I try and produce on this channel, I really miss the way that FFG used to release information for new units. We would essentially get teasers for the new units, and then eventually get an article prior to their release, and those articles would fully disclose their unit cards, all the rules for that new model, and any additional upgrades that were being released alongside them, which allowed me to make really comprehensive unit review videos, produce them just in time for the unit's release, and pretty much allowed me to make a really comprehensive one-and-done video. Now, if you go back to the Kashyyyk Wave release, there's certain videos where I talk about a full unit, however one of their armament upgrades will be not yet revealed, and then the following week I would come back and make another short video on teasers for a new unit that's half revealed and cover the reveals from the previous units, which really turned my Legion videos into more of news cycle reactions rather than comprehensive unit reviews. Now, I would go on to do my comprehensive unit reviews after that unit was fully revealed, but that was after doing one or two videos on that unit already, and it became pretty exhausting. Combine that with Atomic Mass Games' really sporadic release of information and how it was revealed, like Twitch, Twitter, or even Instagram sometimes, and it really just all clashed very poorly with my style of producing content for this channel. But on top of all that, Legion also just kind of took a turn in a direction that I'm not really interested or excited in. Not only did we have ridiculously long gaps of radio silence on Star Wars Legion content, but the projected content for the next seemingly 2 years was stuff that I just didn't really have interest in. It seems like they just dropped the Clone Wars stuff on its ass after the Kashyyyk Wave, which I personally think is a pretty big mistake because the Clone Wars factions are what got me to finally pull the trigger and get into Star Wars Legion. And I don't have the data analysis in front of me, but I'm pretty positive that the Clone Wars release was a massive second win for Star Wars Legion, which was struggling for a while upon its initial release. So personally, while I am warming up to the Shadow Collective stuff, I still do think they jumped the gun a bit there. Content creation aside, it's something that really disenfranchised me as a player. And I think even if I was full gung-ho on the scum and villainy stuff, I think this new sort of stop-and-go nature we have with Star Wars Legion content would still result in the same thing with my channel slowing down. It just took an already demanding job, or rather hobby, and made it a little bit more tedious than I'd like it to be. And you can't really blame AMG for all of that. Like I said, I have a theory that Legion was kind of dumped in their lap when they were, let's say, neck deep in Crisis Protocol. But that is what it is. Now, another main reason I was able to roll out so many videos during that Kashik wave is probably a little bit more obvious, and that's because I had plenty of free time. I had just moved to a new area after buying my first house. I had a little bit of cushion cash to live off of while I was looking for work, and I had plenty of time to sit in front of a computer and pretend like this was my real job. And at that time, I was really in a good groove and was able to produce content very reliably then, almost once a week. And what bucked me from that is that I started to get into construction and I built a guest house in my backyard. Now, that was a very rewarding job, but also extremely demanding. And let's go ahead and say that my passion for creativity and creating was poured into that and diverted away from the hobby and inadvertently this channel. I mean, there was still a good span of time where I was producing videos, but I hadn't picked up a paintbrush in months. And at the very moment I'm recording this, I have no interest in picking up a paintbrush or buying new models, at least not for the time being. And on top of all that, I have moved to a more rural area that simply doesn't have a player base. There is one wargaming shop in my town, though it seems to be only Warhammer players there, and I am close to some major cities, but I don't have a group or a single person I can go and pick up a game in the afternoon with. And for something like Bolt Action, it's not that big of a deal because that is such a sedimentary set of rules. But for Star Wars Legion, it's really hampered my ability to get out there and playtest new units and new strategies and see what works and what doesn't. So it's harder for me to form my own unique opinion on the rules that isn't fully based on speculation. And obviously that has a major impact on the content I produce for this channel. Now, my workload has started to lighten up a little bit lately, but like I said, I am a man of many hobbies, so those other hobbies, namely motorcycle touring and construction, have kind of been in my forefront of what I want to do with my money and free time. I've also been focusing a lot on my physical fitness lately. I'm starting to get a little bit older, and I'm noticing it's a little bit harder to lose weight and stay in shape, and that is yet another thing that really bites into my free time, but it's a great thing to get in the habit of doing, and it's something I recommend all my listeners get into also. You don't have to go to a gym, you don't even have to go on a jog. Just dedicate 20 to 30 minutes of your day to being active, even if you're just going on a walk around the block or going up and down the flight of stairs to get your heart rate up. It's never too late to start, and simple things like that routinely will do wonders for your health in the long run. And I am personally a firm believer that a little bit of discipline and routine will help make you a better person in life. And I think that is something that a lot of us hobbyists do need. So perhaps consider giving yourself little ultimatums like, I either need to spend the next 30 minutes painting miniatures or doing some exercise. Basically, put those two workloads next to each other and reward yourself by doing the one that you would rather do at the moment. Okay, but enough with the AHA propaganda. Basically, what I'm saying is I've had other things going on with my life that have me preoccupied. I'm pretty much fully out of the groove with the hobby itself, less so with the YouTube channel. I definitely have more of a drive to come here and produce more content than I do producing new miniatures. This video's very existence is proof of that. And this is by no means nails in the coffin for the channel. I definitely don't have any intention of deleting it. Again, it's here to be a resource for players, new content or no. And I doubt I'll ever get to the point where I'll say, no, I don't think I'm going to go back to the channel. So that wraps up the channel update. I feel like I owe it to you guys to explain why I haven't been posting here. It's a great community. I am happy to be at your service. So as always, until next time, take care.